Good morning. Let's try that again, a little more energy. Good morning. Hey, there we go. Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. For over 150 years, we have gathered here on the ancestral lands of the Dakota people, striving to be a church of open minds and loving hearts. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your hopes for our world, and your story are welcome here. We are grateful to be open on both sides of our doors, in person and online as well. Thank you for joining us this morning. You can join us at 10 o'clock each week for donut holes and coffee out in the courtyard. Kind of slip around on the ice out there. Just take it easy on these cold days. Or you can join us online for coffee hour on Zoom as well. For those in the sanctuary here, you'll notice hymnals have returned. They're under your seats. If you want to read along with the music, lyrics will also be on the screen as well. The first hymn isn't even in the hymnal, so it doesn't really matter for that one, but we'll ease our way back into using those. Last month, we are grateful that we raised over $800 for the Southeastern Minnesota Interfaith Immigration Legal Defense Fund. Thank you for your generosity. And our monthly partner for March is Hawthorne Helps, one that we know of well as a uniquely UU organization and work in the community. So I want to invite Sandy McLaughlin to come up and share a little bit about it.
Good morning. Today I speak for our UU nonprofit Hawthorne Helps, celebrating 7 years at Hawthorne Education Center. Your bulletin has a description. I feel like I'm literally preaching to the choir this morning, so in thinking about my 2 minutes here, I asked myself, based on this month's Soul Matters theme, what breaks my faith? In today's difficult world, so many answers popped up. Perhaps you would feel the same. War, poverty, racial injustice, COVID, and climate change, just for starters. In 2020, when I thought I might be speaking here in person, I planned to share results from a Channel 6 poll on the statement. Olmsted County Administrative Committee easily agreed last week that the county should take refugees. Maybe only the most hateful responded to the poll. 68% said no. Some comments I couldn't even repeat here. Southern Minnesota has enough. The whole state of Minnesota has enough. They are not refugees, they are invaders. Amen to that. We don't need any refugees. We need to take care of us, America first and foremost. Yikes. What renews my faith is a much better question to consider. For me, Hawthorne Education adult students renew my faith. Who are they? People of color, high school dropouts, refugees, recovering drug addicts and alcoholics, immigrants, people with disabilities, moms, dads, grandparents, brothers and sisters, just people, all working to make a better life for themselves and their families through education. So what does your donation buy? Definitely something more than toothpaste, toilet paper, or dish soap. To the students, our presence is the present. 32,000 student shoppers have been served in our 7 years. A staff member, himself a Hmong refugee, recently said to me, "Thank you. You may not realize what your presence means here. Our students face many rejections in our current world." This sentiment has been repeated in some form many times by the students and staff alike. We really are a welcoming UU congregation on that site. Thank you for your support. And if you really don't know about Hawthorne Helps, I'll be around after the service to talk. And next week, we're packing 150 bags for Hawthorne, so please come and help.
Thank you, Sandy. Yeah, join us next week between services in the Commons as we pack bags for Hawthorne Helps. All are invited. We'll have it efficient and fun and spread out downstairs, so please join us next week for that work. And in case you missed it, you can go back and view last night's UU's Got Talent variety show on our YouTube page. Special thank you to all the organizers and performers, such a great variety of talent in our congregation. So it's on our YouTube page if you want to go back and see it. It was a fun evening. And join us this Wednesday night at 6:30 for another fun evening, the Pledge Drive Forum. All the details you want to know about our goals and the why and the how of pledging, especially if it's new for you. So you can turn in a pledge form online, by phone, by paper, as we're in the midst of our pledge campaign. Next week, technically, is the last Sunday to turn in your pledge, though we'll take pledges after that as well. But thank you for supporting our church, and thanks to the Pledge Campaign for all the work and details in making this a festive and fun time. So I invite you to take a breath wherever you are and ground yourself in this moment. Let us enter this time of worship with these words from our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together. And I'm up next. I'm going to teach you this song, but I wanted to get the lyrics. So I'm going to teach you this song called Where You Go. I'll sing a little bit and have you repeat it, and then I'll sing a little bit, have you repeat it, and then we'll sing it together. So you can stay seated at first. The lyrics are on the back page of your order of service or as well up on the screen. So the first part is repeated like this. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Sing that with me. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And then the next section goes like this. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. And then it goes, for your people are my people. Then jumps, you're divine, my divine. For your people are my people. You're divine, my divines. So I'm going to sing it once all the way through. Feel free to join in a little bit, and then we'll sing it together. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. For your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. I think you're getting it. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. For your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. For your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. One more time. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Amen.
I'd like to invite any children up for the chalice lighting. They're telling me that this will pick me up, right? Ready? Okay. This is the Unitarian Universalist Church. This is the church of the flaming chalice. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the loving heart, where friends come together and share. So anyone who wants to come and join me up here can. So next weekend I'm going to be gone because I am going on my first airplane ride in 2 years. And I've kind of forgotten how to pack. I mean, and for 2 years I've been packing so I can go in the car so I can bring pretty much anything that I want with me, right? But now with all the airline fees and all that stuff, I can only bring like a little bag. So this is one of the bags I've been bringing, and I have my mouse pad. See, my little mouse pad. For my computer, I have my wallet. So I kind of packing for stuff that I think I might do. So I'm going to see some of my friends, so we might want to play catch. So I have a little ball. Sunscreen. White pasty Minnesota legs in March. Need sunscreen. I need some money. And then a first aid kit. Because, who knows what could possibly happen when I am gone, right? I could cut myself or... a little light reading, The New Jim Crow and an Indigenous Peoples History of the United States for the vacation. And since I'm leaving Minnesota, I better bring a scarf in case it's cold. Hand sanitizer. And, what if I get bored and feel like doing some knitting or something, right? And then the big thing that I bring with me, gotta bring my chalice with my light, right? Okay, well that should get me through. If I have money and sunscreen and hand sanitizer, I think I'm kind of set, right? What about my clothes? I have a little bigger bag for that for later. But this is kind of like all of my baggage, right? And as Sandy was talking about, there's a lot of baggage we carry around in our hearts these days, and sometimes it's really difficult to figure out what we should carry with us and what's essential, because if there's anything that the pandemic has taught us me at least, is what I really need when I go places and what I don't really need and what I can just carry with me. So, I know I'm going to need sunscreen because it's going to be hot. And I know I'm going to need my wallet and my money. So I better bring that. Hand sanitizer. So, okay, it's a little lighter. Okay, these books, I don't know. They kind of always are with me, right? But maybe next weekend isn't the best time to be carrying these big, heavy ideas with me. So I think I'm probably just going to leave those here for that. They're still going to be kind of on my mind and everything, and maybe watch the news, but maybe I'll find a little cozy mystery or something to read instead. Am I really going to knit when I'm on vacation? Probably not. You're right. So I think I'll leave that here. I will probably need my scarf because my neck often gets cold no matter where I am. Do you think my friends and I will find something else to do, or do you think I need to bring this ball? I don't need the ball. Here, can you carry it for me? Thanks. First aid kit, probably don't need the whole thing. Maybe I'll just take out a couple Band-Aids and throw those in there. And then, my mouse pad. I think I'm going to leave work at home too. And then this chalice. I like to carry this chalice and this flame with me wherever I go because it's always a reminder of my faith and what I have with me. But I don't think I really need to bring this great big one with me on vacation, partially because I have a little chalice necklace that I wear pretty much every day. And I also know that I carry the flame and the faith in my heart with me wherever I go. And so part of going away is not necessarily to forget about everything that's happening. I'll probably still watch the news and doom scroll sometimes at night, even on vacation. But I don't think I need to carry all this big luggage with me, because I know that there's other people around here too that are going to pick that up a little bit. And then when they need a break, I'm going to be there to help them pick up what they can't carry anymore. So can you help me carry some of this while Austin plays the children's benediction on our way out? Okay. So just remember, You may be carrying a lot in your heart, but all of us, as you use, are here to help make that load a little lighter for everyone. So Austin will now play the children's benediction.
Good morning. So what are your stories? What stories do you tell your family, friends, and strangers about your experience of the COVID-19 virus over the last 2 years? I tell stories about how surreal it felt when the country completely shut down beginning on March 15th of 2020. I tell stories about how I was walking the empty halls of St. Mary's at 1:30 on a Tuesday afternoon thinking, this is nuts. It's okay, and you expect the halls of the hospital to be quiet at 3 a.m. when working a night shift, but not at 1:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I tell the story of my good friend who finally got tickets to go to the Final Four, but it was in New Orleans, but he couldn't go because they actually canceled March Madness. I tell about how crazy things got that summer when George Floyd was murdered during the pandemic. Stories that bring out the anger, the sadness, and grief we felt at the injustice still widespread in this country. I tell the story of the anger I felt when public safety tools such as quarantines, mask mandates, and vaccine programs became political punchlines instead of instruments to protect our community. I tell the story of the loneliness I felt and the hole in my heart when we were forced to stop coming to church so that we could protect one another and bear witness to the power of our community. I tell the story of the challenges I dealt with when I was a worship associate and services went online. The fact that I had to have my reflection written, practiced, and recorded by Thursday afternoon threw off my entire game. Procrastinator that I am, I was used to having Saturday to get it done. And now I'm telling the story of how it appears the end may be in sight. If not the end, then maybe a more stable way of managing our lives in the time of COVID. I'm telling the story of how we are back at church and the hole in my heart is repairing. We live our lives telling stories like these. Stories help us explain our happiness, our joy, our sadness, and anger. Stories like these help us understand how we live our lives in community and how that community helps us understand the significance of the world we live in. Serene Jones, the president of the Union Theological Seminary in New York, says the foundation of her theology is, among other elements, the necessity of our interconnected breath. I take that to mean the communities we are a part of define our view of faith, whatever that faith may be. Our UU Church is one of those communities where we go to help us make meaning of the big questions. The breath we share at worship, the stories we share in chalice circles and social justice gatherings help us define our beliefs, and they help us make choices that are true to our values. This community helps us find ways to nurture inclusion, justice, and love. So as we enter our pledge season, here's hoping we keep reminding ourselves of the impact the UU has on us as individuals and on the larger community of Rochester.
Melissa's not feeling well this morning, so she's not here with us. Send her healing wishes. I think I also forgot to mention at any point before or during after the service, offering collections can be placed in the wooden boxes at the side or in the lobby as well, or given online. So I invite you to take a deep breath. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning. Above you the sky, and beyond that the stars shining with their ancient light, holding you in this moment, this breath, right here, right now. Know that in this house you are named, you are known as beloved, as sacred. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life and source of love, God of many names and beyond all naming. Some days it doesn't seem real, how one part of the world can be raging while other parts are calm and serene. We know deep in our bones and our hearts that we are interconnected, but at times it's hard to feel the pull of another's pain or grief, or for that matter, someone's hope or joy. So too, as the world feels, so do our souls sometimes feel all of that at once. Or as Mari Andrew writes, I'm washing my face before bed while another country is on fire. It feels dumb to wash my face, but also dumb not to. It's never been this way, and it has always been this way. Someone has always clinked a glass in one hemisphere as someone loses a home in another, while someone falls in love in the same apartment building where someone else grieves. The fact that suffering and beauty coincide is unbearable and remarkable. We hold in our hearts this day all those who suffer in mind, body, or spirit. I invite you to bring the names that you're holding in your heart this day in joy or sorrow, celebration or concern, close to home or far away, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For the names spoken and unspoken, may we all be held in love and grace. These words of meditation come from Pat Schneider, who writes, "Is there an angel in the house? If there is, come to me. And if you aren't too tired or otherwise occupied, if it isn't too tacky a request, please rock me. I'm bruised. If you will hold me until morning, then I promise I will rise and I will light the fire and break the bread and put back on my shoulder my corner of the world. But for now I could use the shelter of a wing. Excuse me, is there an angel in the house?" May it be so. Amen.
Distance
first reading is At 4:45 by Angela Jonda. I was feeling lonely, so I went out to the windswept yard, and beyond that to the wind-tousled yard, and found where last night, in the moonlight, we left 2 sets of boot prints. When you stopped on your way through the darkness to bring a lemon bar and a movie. And besides ours, the tracks of the smallest things with claws, which must have followed sometime later. And I chased its tiny prints and our mud-washed indents to the far back gate, and through the gate, out to where the land is still dirt and brush and bushes and cow pies. My hair pinned to my head, but still blowing. And I could see through lonely to the wide open, long blue lines of sunset, moonlit night, the airplanes trailing one another down to tarmac, and all those people landing home. The second reading is called Mingling by Kim Stafford. Remember how we used to do it? Weaving through the crowd, brushing shoulders, fingers touching a sleeve, adjusting a lapel. First an old friend here, and then turn to banter with a stranger, finding odd connections. You're from where? You know her? Going deeper into story there, leaning back in wonder, bending close to whisper, secrets hidden in the hubbub. As if in the middle of this melee, you found a room and lit a lamp. Someone singing out a name, another bowing with a shriek of laughter. Slap on the back. Bear hug, void of fear? Imagine. Just imagine.
It was June last year. We were saying farewell to some dear colleagues, either retiring or moving on from their ministries. It was 2021, so we were in the hopeful downward trends, we thought, of the pandemic. We were safely gathered outdoors, all of us with our vaccines. And then there were those little moments where we would greet each other, these people we hadn't seen other than online for months and months, and usually ask a hug. Like we were asking both, are you okay with a hug? But we were also asking, how do we interact with people again? What are we doing? How do we do this? And across the board, the colleagues said yes. And for most of us, navigating ministry in our congregations during plague, there were some of us for the first time being together here without masks or embracing somebody outside of our household. And it reminded us of how much we missed being together, how much we needed each other, how important community and shared space was. And then Delta, then Omicron, and so much of that hope, that fleeting moment of summer, we had to give up again. So if you forgot to give something up for Lent, or you forgot that Lent, this season of simplicity leading up to Easter, started this week, Don't worry about it. You've given up enough for a couple years. Some of the best theologians and leaders remind us, instead of giving up things we love, which is this weird kind of standby for Lenten practices for many, giving up food or chocolate or these really nourishing, soul-nourishing things, let's give up some other larger things that we can really afford to lose as humanity. Let's give up first diet culture and body shaming, but then let's also give up greed or arrogance or individualism. Let's give up war and tanks and authoritarianism and militarism while we're at it. Let's give up a false altruism that the world has not somehow failed so many other refugees, asylum seekers from other countries that have often been ignored. Maybe our love and support for the Ukraine people, which is good, should spill out into other countries and situations as well, that there's enough love to go around. The best way to recognize Lent and fasting, perhaps, is going back further in the Hebrew tradition to the practice of Jubilee, where every 7 years prisoners are freed and debts are forgiven. Or as the prophet Isaiah wrote, "Is this not the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to let the oppressed go free." Maybe you remember an old phrase if you grew up practicing or observing Lent: "Remember you are dust, and to dust you shall return." It can feel a bit morbid. It's kind of the point. A reminder of fragility, of mortality, or in other ways, a connection to earth and nature, the dirt of the sacred earth. As progressive theologian and poet Jan Richardson writes, "All those days you felt like dust, like dirt, as if all you had to do was turn your face toward the wind and you would be scattered or swept away." She writes, "Let us not be marked for false humility or thinking we're less than we are, but for claiming what God can do within the dust and the dirt, within the stuff of which our world is made and the stars that blaze in our bones." It's been a couple of years, I think, feeling like maybe our world has been reduced to something that feels like dust, shaky ground that could easily be scattered, swept away. All that we knew as normal, familiar, solid, hasn't felt so solid. But what we know is that we need each other. The poets help remind us of all of this, its blessings, its challenges, like the invitation to imagine what mingling was again, right? Finding our path through loneliness to the beauty of people finding their way home, as the other poet says. We've been wandering in some wilderness of uncertainty, wondering how to find our way back, lurching back toward being together again, finally getting the hymnals back, barely getting donut holes outside, all these things. Even before trauma and the upheaval in so many ways of these past 2 years, many things that were maybe assured or certain maybe weren't as sure as we thought they were. Like church itself, this old school, ancient form of spoken word, live music, singing, and ritual from a distance. It's a weird sort of thing. And not a day goes by that I'm not mindful that we live in an age, and we have for some time, that makes what we do here seem unlikely, improbable. We're in an era where churches have trended less and less relevant, participation in religion on the decline across the board, even among the more progressive churches. And if I'm being honest, I can't really believe, logically, that we came through these last 2 years without any notable reductions in our budget, like some of our sibling congregations. We didn't have to take out payroll protection loans to keep our staff. We didn't have to slash hours or programs because giving was down. We're lucky. And when we started reopening, people kept showing up every time, half in person, half online, in numbers about where we were 2 years ago. Even welcoming new members 2 weeks ago and again in a week or two. And I say all of this with deep humility and awareness and hesitancy, as any minister in this day and age would, that none of this is guaranteed. Some days I think church work is a constant gamble, wondering like, what am I doing here in this modern world? Is this going to last? Is this sustainable? But I keep experiencing evidence to the contrary of those larger trends. Maybe that's why our membership, our budget have stayed healthy and stable during these years. I'm hoping they continue to, but that's up to you now for the pledge drive. But none of that is the point, of course. The point as a church is, are we living our mission? Welcome, compassion, spirituality, justice. Or in universalist terms, are we being an embodiment of universal love and service in the world? Are we experiencing mystery and wonder and awe and finding ways to let that flow out in love and compassion to the world? Because our purpose is not to survive, not to just exist, though that'd be good. Our purpose is to love the hell out of this world and our souls, to create spaces and community where that work can happen. To create that, there's a lot of numbers, a lot of stats that goes underneath that all, the numbers of individual souls that gather, the numbers of groups and classes, the numbers of people volunteering or helping out a refugee family or whatever it happens to be, the numbers of modems scattered around the church so that we can broadcast online and connect on Zoom, the number of sadly unused things that we gave up the last 2 years, like plates and napkins, things we wished we were using in abundance again, serving spoons for Wednesday dinners. There's also money stats, of course, which is a little uncomfortable to talk about, but here we are, so I'm going to do it. About 250 or so pledging households, an annual budget of near $600,000. Some households pledge $1 a year, some pledge well over $10,000 a year, and everywhere in between, with an average, depending on how you figure it, around $200 or $2,000 per household per year to support the church. Then there's inflation. Let's not get into why right now, but trying to craft a budget with the goal of about a 6 to 7% increase to simply keep up with costs. And by the way, I have my pledge. Is there a box somewhere nearby? I've got my pledge. We're increasing by 6 to 7%. Thank you, Robin.
Absolutely.
That's where you can turn in your pledge after service as well. Good job, pledge team. So there's our family's pledge for today. So there's a lot of numbers there. There's a lot more underneath that. All of those numbers point to something more important. And of course, the church is completely funded by you or by us, members and friends, a democratic, voluntary congregation. Always has been, always will be. There are 1,000 other line items, possibilities, increases needed in these years for nimble, flexible budgets, because we know we can't plan a year out, let alone sometimes a month or a couple weeks out. So we do it all like the phrase I grew up with in my household. All depends on the weather, depends on the atmosphere, what's out there in the air. It's all uncertain what tomorrow brings. But we move forward always in faith and hope and love. So maybe you give because you want the church to be a good and generous employer. Good, thank you. Maybe you give because you do not want the coffee and donut hole fund to ever run out, because it means that much to your soul. Maybe you give because it's just good to practice generosity. But I'm betting, even if all those things are true, even in part, you probably give for much deeper reasons. In these days of massive change in the world that has changed, perhaps another poet's words are essential to hear about church life. Madeleine L'Engle says it's a good thing to have all the props pulled out from under us occasionally, because it gives us some sense of what is rock under our feet and what is sand. It's good to wonder what beneath us is shifting sand and what is sacred dust when joined together is strong enough to hold like nourished soil. Because regardless of the certainty of it all, I know why I give. It's because these people, you people scattered both here and far, you're my people. And I want to cast my lot with a faith tradition along with my faith and doubts and questions and hopes, but a tradition that's committed to imagining the widest possible understanding of what is sacred, where we find beauty, who and what is holy, that is committed to embodying those spiritual beliefs in real ways, to loose the bonds of injustice and let the oppressed go free. I want to cast my lot with a community, a religion, a church that is committed to paying attention to the realities of the world as if our lives depend on it, because they do. I want to cast my lot, pledge whatever I'm able to be sure there is a place where people, weary and heartbroken, come together to weep in their grief or sing praise to life in their moments of joy, join together in moments of awe and beauty, learning and challenge, laughter, fellowship, service, justice. Hear a blessing on their common everyday work and be reminded that their work, whatever it is sacred. And they, whoever they are holy and called to treat everything and everyone else like that too. I want a place that will help me find my way after the darkness that keeps arriving at our doors, and we trace our path from what we thought we had lost the night before, like the poet writes today, and we find our way through loneliness, through despair, through plague, and we find here in these people, this congregation and others, just enough hope and love and joy and compassion to a place where we feel like we can enter through a door or a link or a call or a card and feel like we're landing home. Each generation has had their part of this work, and part of our work in these days is creating a church that's nimble, flexible, shiftable. That's how those before us for 150 years plus made it to where we are now. They adapted and changed to whatever came next. And the world has changed in dramatic ways. And to keep living our mission, we must constantly change with it, rooted in this question: what kind of church do we want to be in 5 years, 20 years, 50 years, 150 years? How are we using whatever we have, physical space like in our building discernment, program space in our governance questions about how people participate? How are we building a space open to a changing world? Trying new things, saying, I'm not sure that's how I would do it, but I'll give it a try. Because church, if it is to thrive, to be a source of nourishment, hope, of comfort and challenge and transformation, then it must always transcend individual ideas and preferences. I believe this, or I think this is the way it has to be. It must always lean toward community. That's what congregation means. That what is in the best interest of all of us, our collective well-being for the long term, creating a home for those who come far after us that we haven't met yet, like those who came before us created this space for us. Because the message at our core, regardless of the trends, the message at our core of love and justice still holds. It is in real ways saving souls, not from some eternal damnation, though our theology does say that by eliminating that reality at all, but from the isolation and despair that comes in this world so often, and from messages that declare someone as broken or wrong or less than holy. This tradition still saves souls from that sense of darkness and despair. Remember, poet Kim Stafford asks, weaving through the crowd, first an old friend, then turned to banter with a stranger, going deeper into the story, leaning back in wonder. The roar of the crowd comes back, someone singing out a name, a shriek of laughter, a bear hug void of fear. Just imagine that. It sounds like coffee hour back in the day, whose echoes are coming back slowly. It's good to remember we are always in transition. We are all temporary, as many colleagues, senior mentors reminded me entering ministry. We are all interim, temporary ministers. Blips on the screen of this tradition, blips on the timeline of any congregation we serve. We are also a link necessary, all of us, as part of this community, between ancestors and descendants. Always on shifting sand, always building what comes next, casting our questions into the deep, here with our companions. I don't really care, this pledge drive, what each person gives. I mean, I care, but I don't. Even though each choice of pledging is important, and even the cards that say 0 on them perhaps are the most inspiring ones, because it says this is what I'm able to give, which right now is financially nothing. But it's a declaration that my heart's home is here. What I actually care about is what are we creating with whatever generosity comes from that invitation, where together we say humbly, here's what I can give, in gratitude for those who gave long before me for years and years, and in hope for those who will be here long after I'm gone. To be sure that the person who right now has no idea that this little church exists at all can find their way to this threshold right when they need it, and find there a welcome that is wide enough to hold their soul to. The hymn is Blue Boat Home. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing together. I invite you to place a hand on your heart or toward the earth or sky in gratitude. Go yonder, and gather the people. Give them not hell, but courage and hope. Give them something of the love you have found here, and tell all the people that love is our home. Amen.